Hello, friends. It's Stamp Ventures with Shauna, Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, Canada. Welcome to my live tutorial here on Facebook on Tuesday, September 5th at about 9:04 p.m. If you're catching it after that, then it'll be the replay that you're seeing. And I'm going to see if I can manage to get myself linked up with the iPad. I don't know how long my iPad is going to last because it only has about 16% in the battery. So we might have to be taking bets as to whether the iPad lasts long enough. I know my phone is good to go. I think it's in the 80% range. And so the only thing would be is that if the iPad gives it up, I won't be able to see the comments until I go back and look at the replay. So if you get a chance, say hello. Tell us how you're feeling about the S word, September. Somebody said, yeah, it's the Burr months that we have entered. And yeah, tell me what September is feeling like for you. I'm a little ambivalent myself. Kind of like things about summer, but there are some nice things about fall too. So yeah, if you've managed to find me, give a shout. And this funny is compliments of, well, somebody that I met at the recent leadership convention I was at, which was near Vegas. I got to meet a demonstrator from Northern California, and her name is Kim Myers, and she shared this little funny on her Facebook page the other day. I said to myself, self, and I knew it was me because I recognized my voice and I was wearing my underwear. Today is going to be a good day. And it has been a good day. It's been a busy one. I don't know if you're feeling busy, but yeah, I'm finding always the beginning of September just keeps me hopping. So yeah, got to remember. There's a gal named Mel Robbins who talks about giving yourself a high five in the mirror every morning, and maybe I need to remember, to tell myself it's going to be a good day and think about the underwear I'm wearing as I'm giving myself the high five. I haven't remembered to do that in the longest time, and it's a good reminder to do that. Okay, so got a weather update for you for here in Moose Jaw. Today's weather is all over the map. I guess I should say that actually in the last 24 hours it's been all over the map, because yesterday we had an almost solid day of rain, which was just incredible because we haven't had rain for quite some time. Things here are very, very dry. And it wasn't like a blowing, terrible, stormy rain. It was just kind of rain all day long, and it definitely gathered in the low places. And so today when I was out for a walk with my friend, like, we were hitting muddy spots on the paths, and I'm like, oh, we're not used to mud. But even today, I mean, it started out being sunny, but it was cool this morning. It was like wear a jacket that was substantial, fairly substantial jacket. And then later into the early afternoon, it was like, okay, wear a light sweater. And I did when we started our walk. I had a sweater with just a, very, very light. It kind of had holes in the sleeves, from the knit. And I was feeling chilly to begin with when the walk started out. Well, by the time the walk ended, I was like taking the sweater off and tying it around my waist. And so, yeah, it had really warmed up by then, or at least I had warmed up, because maybe I was just not used to the coolness anymore. So I felt like the weather was all over the map. And now, of course, it's getting cool again for the evening. So because the weather's all over the map, today's weather is sponsored by the Watercolor Wonder background stamp. And there's the world. Yeah. Or the world map, sort of. I guess it's just mostly the shape of the world, not certain places indicated on the map. But I have seen some cool cards where somebody has, you know, indicated a particular spot on the map, which has made the card just a little bit more personalized. Okay, and before I get into today's card, which we're going to be cutting up some DSP, and I just wanted to mention that tomorrow is the kickoff for customers for the September through December 2023 mini catalog. And I still can't show you the inside of this, but I can, you know, I think like, well, starting at, I don't know, midnight tonight or something. And but I won't be up at midnight. I'm going to be up at about 3 a.m. or so to place the order for my paper shares and ribbon shares. I want to make sure I get all the nice papers and ribbons before some of them happen to, you know, sometimes those really, really special ones sometimes happen to sell out right away. And so I'm going to get on that, and I'll be in touch with all the people who have ordered those shares with me. If any of you have seen this catalog and have something that you really have your heart set on, I always suggest you order it sooner rather than later. And usually when something goes quickly, they will try and bring it back again. But if it's something that's maybe being produced in Asia, it might take until October or, you know, later into October or so before they can make it available again in the warehouse. So always good to keep in mind. Things are, you know, while they last. Okay, so I've pulled out some paper from the mini catalog here, and it's not the paper you would traditionally think would be in a fall and Christmas catalog, because it does have, I think, represents a few different seasons. It's called the Garden Walk paper, and it's in a 6x6 pack, so I don't even have to cut it to start with. It's already in the 6x6 piece that I recommended for today's project. And you can see when I say all the different seasons, there's kind of springy and summery looking flowers here at the beginning. Springy and summery. I don't know how you decide which ones are spring and which ones are summer, but pretty and light. And then it gets into some like really intense. This is the paper I'm going to use tonight. I wasn't so sure about this, what's it called? The wheat color. Well, it says on the pack here, wild wheat. And now I've seen it in this designer paper, and I'm like, oh, I really like this combination. It speaks to me as fall and beautiful, beautiful fall colors. And then you go even further, and there's even some Christmas flowers in this Garden Walk paper. But like I said, I'm going to use this fall piece of 6x6, and I'll review again the sizes of the papers that I'm using. Some of you may have seen my earlier post where I showed the different things we'll be using. And this is like super creatable card. So if you happen to have some paper nearby, you can probably start cutting along with me, and you'll be able to catch up in no time. So you'll need a half sheet of colored cardstock. I picked a color that was found in the designer paper. This happens to be Poppy Parade. And this is going to get cut into two pieces, and I'll show you that in just a moment. But if you start with a half sheet of the colored cardstock, that's good for now. And then a 6x6 piece of designer series paper. And we are going to do a small cut on this, and you'll see that in a moment as well. But we're going to use almost this whole piece. So that's what I really like about this card, is it's a great way to, it's a great use of the paper, and you don't have much left over. So then you can have a 3 3/4 inch by 2.5 inch piece of basic white. And the card orientation is going to be portrait. It's going to be vertical. So, and this is where our main image for the card will go. Now, if you happen to have the scalloped contours dies, I've taken this this scalloped die. I think it's the third largest one. It's got the stitched edges, and it's actually about this dimension. It's approximately 3 3/4 by 2.5. And if you have that, you can cut one of those out with your die cutting machine. But if you don't happen to have the scalloped contours dies, then you can just cut 2 of this basic white. You'll need both, and I mean, you could actually cut 2 of the scallop too if you wanted to, but yeah, you can do 2 of these, or 1 of each. And that's it pretty much for the main papers that you need. You will also need, I just realized I didn't put it on here. You'll need just some scraps of white if you are going to be die cutting and gluing extra pieces on, but you might not need them depending on which stamps you use. You'll need stamps, and tonight I'm going to be using the translucent floral stamp set from the September through December mini catalog. I like the shading in the floral pieces. It's got a bit of that distinctive look to it, and it's a little bit different than some of the other flowers that I have. So that's why I decided to get this set. Also, demonstrators had a chance to participate in a Creativity Now Day, and this was also used for that. So I've had this for a little bit longer than just our regular pre-order month, and have been quite enjoying it. You'll also need inks, and today I'm going to be using Poppy Parade ink and Garden Green ink. And again, those color choices were taken from the colors that were in the Designer Series paper. So the Poppy Parade here and the Garden Green here. Actually, there is also Mossy Meadow too. I totally could have used Mossy Meadow because I think this is probably closer to Mossy Meadow than it might be, because their Garden Green is used in other parts of the paper as well. And then you'll need your cutting and scoring tool, and I already mentioned embellishments. So we'll get started here. And the first thing is, maybe we'll do the cutting that we need to get things to exactly the size that we'll be using. So start with the half sheet of cardstock. And we're going to cut it, we're going to cut one piece that's 5.5 by 4 1/4. And that's actually going to be the base of the card. So the very base of the card, the base is just going to be one layer. There will be folding components stacked on top of that, but I'm just making sure I've got my already cut at 5.5 inches. So now there's my 4 1/4. And so there's my base. Now, this is going to be a folding layer on the card, but it needs to be cut just slightly. So right now, it's 5.5 inches the long way, and I'm going to keep it at 5.5 inches, but I'm going to cut it so that it is, I have to think about this, it is 4 inches wide, not 4 1/4, but 4 inches. So there, I'm just taking off this little bit, and I think I'm just going to recycle that because that's pretty small. And now, while I've got my scorer and trimmer out, I am going to turn this so that it's horizontal, and I'm going to score it in half to create like sort of a little mini card. And so half of 5.5 is 2 3/4. And I'm going to make sure I get that cutting blade out of the way because I don't want to cut. There's my lighter gray blade, and I'll score, and there we go. There's my one of the little mini cards for the front. Okay, now we're going to go on to the designer paper. And we're starting with the 6x6 piece of paper from the Garden Walk. And I actually want this piece to be 6 inches by 5 1/4. So I'll leave it 6 inches one way, and I'll turn it so that it's 5 1/4 the other way. And actually the short way, so the 5 1/4 is going to be the height of the card. So if you've got paper that has a definite up and down, like this is kind of random, like, you know, we've got some flowers standing this way and some flowers standing that way. I don't think it matters too much which way I cut it, but if yours is definitely a pattern that has a definite top and bottom to it, you want like the top here and the bottom here, and you're going to cut it at 5 1/4. It's going to go like this. Now this piece, what is it, 3/4 of an inch? I'm going to set that off to the side because at the end we're going to use some of this to decorate the envelope. And yeah, it's, like I said, we're going to use almost all of the 6x6 sheet. Now, we've got to make sure I move the cutting blade back into its parking lot there, and I'm going to score the designer paper at 4 inches. So there we go. I don't want to press too hard because designer paper is a lot lighter and I don't really want to create a gouge in the paper. And I think I can, yeah, I can move the scorer and trimmer out of the way now, and we'll get started putting things together and do some stamping. So with this piece that you've just scored, you have a choice. You have a choice to fold it so that it is, just making sure I did this the right, yeah, it is the right measurement. Fold it in half like this so that when you open it in the inside, you see all the floral parts, or you have the choice of having just a little bit of floral, and when you open it on the inside, you see all the stripy parts. And since I'm really in love with the floral design, I'm going to have it so there's just a little bit of stripiness and lots of floral when the card gets opened up. And I know this seems a little bit weird that this is opening on the right hand side, because normally on a book or a card it's on the left, but you'll see in a minute how this all works together. And so I'm going to take and adhere the scored DSP onto this base panel. And I'm just thinking, okay, hopefully this glue has something in it. I had a glue that I think had more in it, and I apparently took it somewhere. There we go. And I like to use the liquid glue because it gives me a little time to shift and wiggle and get it somewhat centered. And I know some of you have seen me do this before too, where after I've set it down, I kind of move it around and look at from different angles to see if it's, yeah, close to being centered. And there we go. And the mat around it is fairly even. So you may have already guessed this, but this little mini card is going to tuck under here and fold over top like that. And there'll be the focal point for the card. So if you have a scalloped contour die, this is going to go here. But if you don't have that, then the next best thing is a 3 3/4 by 2.5 inch piece of basic white. I'm going to save this one for the inside. And like I said, you could even have the scalloped contour for both outside and inside if you want to make it even fancier. So maybe before I start gluing everything, I will do my stamping. So then I know I am going to be safe to glue it down. I'm going to stamp the inside first. It's going to be a birthday card. I'll be using the happy birthday sentiment, and I thought for the inside, wishing you all the happiness in the world would be nice. I really like this saying, and it can be used in a lot of different contexts. It could be, congratulations, wishing you all the happiness in the world on your graduation, wishing you all the happiness in the world on your engagement or marriage. Lots of occasions that it fits. So that's going to go on the inside, and I'll use the Poppy Parade ink. There we go. And I don't know if you noticed when I was stamping, I wasn't pushing into the ink pad because it's basically like a sponge and it's really juicy. So I just I'm touching the top, giving the top a kiss, a few kisses, and trying to get the ink all even onto the stamp. Ooh. So this should be ready to glue in because I think it's as good as it's going to get, and I can put that for the inside of the mini card. Oh, having trouble picking that up. And that part is done. Now we're going to do the front of the mini card. And I'm going to do some stamping right on the die cut piece, but I'm also going to stamp a few things onto a scrap paper, and I will die cut those. So first of all, I'll start with stamping this flower image. There's two kind of fuller flowers. I think this is like a small, almost like a little blossom flower too. Yeah, I like how the overlapping happens in the design of these flowers. And I will stamp the flower with the Poppy Parade. It's a bigger stamp, so I can push a little bit more, make sure everything makes contact. And, while I'm here, I'm going to stamp some leaves with the garden green. But like I said, I could have also used the mossy meadow. And there's a set of 2 leaves that are kind of joined together. I'm going to use those ones. There's also a single leaf here. There we go. Now, there are dies that coordinate with this stamp set. Here's the flower die, and here's the double leaf die. And I've already gone ahead and I've die cut those out just to save a little bit of time. If you're using stamps that don't have dies and you want to pop things up a little bit and add some dimension and have them cut out, you can also fussy cut too. Just depends on the time that you have and what your preferences are. Some people find cutting very soothing. I've learned that from people over the years. Not everybody, but some people. And so if that feels wonderful to you, then do the cutting, do the fussy cutting. I have a friend, a stamping friend, who loves to do ribbon shares and wrap the ribbon around and around, something that she finds very soothing. It's not my favorite job, but anyways. Okay, so I think I'm going to put my flower right about there, and picking things up tonight. Yeah, that's the trick. And I want my leaves to go about there. So that means when I stamp my stem, I'm going to want it to go, the leaves could go over a little bit, like maybe about there. So I've got my stem already put onto a clear block. And some people, just quick ink it up like that, but often with these really narrow stamps, when often there'll be rocking that happens, and then you get ink on the edges of your stamp and you get halos showing. So sometimes I found that if you've got the Stampin' Write markers, this is not the alcohol ones, because the alcohol ones would dry too quickly. But if you've got the Stampin' Write markers that are the water-based ones, you can just go like this with your marker. And sometimes people feel a little bit more confident about inking up those narrow stamps and not getting ink all over the edges. Okay, so I'm going to want this, and I want to get it on the flower, so I'm going to move the flower slightly out of the way, something like that. Okay, ooh, yeah. I think I pushed a little bit more than I needed to there, but that's okay, because when I glue the flower down, I can cover up that bulge a little bit. And okay, before I do any gluing though, I'm going to stamp my words, and that's the happy birthday. I've got that all mounted on a clear block here, and I'm going to put this, let's see, how do I want to do this? Oh, maybe about there, and then the leaves will go up there. So let's see, something like that. All right, and next thing, I'm going to glue this piece flat to the front of the mini card. And you know what? Before I go any further, I'm going to close up these ink pads. I know you can't see them, but I'm looking at them up there, and I'm like, oh yeah, just watch me put something into the ink that I don't want in the ink. All right, so little dabble do ya here of the glue. Okay, and now this I'd like to pop up just to give a little bit of dimension. So I'll grab some dimensionals here. And I can make this flower short, or I can make it tall, depending on where I place the blossom. And then I'm going to put some leaves here. And I don't think I'm going to pop up the leaves. I think I just want the flower to pop up. Now, I specifically made sure when I made the card this time to put the stem over enough to the right that the leaves aren't going to be off the edge of the mini card. I did a test run with this card, and my first stem when I did it was over here a little bit more to the left, and then when I opened the mini card, it actually bent the corners, bent the tips of the leaves. So I mean, it's not a huge deal, and maybe some people don't, worry too much about little bent corners, bent edges on the leaves, but I kind of didn't want that to happen, so I specifically tried to keep my stem a little bit more to the right to prevent that. And whatever card you're making, I know like it might be completely different stamps and completely different designer paper, but this is like, it's such an awesome recipe of using the 6x6 paper that I know you'll be able to come up with something. And if you do make a card using this 6x6 recipe, I'd love to see. Please share what you come up with, because I think we can always learn so much from each other, and to give us ideas and ways of using different stamps. So now what I want to do is I want to glue the back of my mini card into the center there, so that kind of have to imagine that this folded panel isn't here. Like put that right there where the fold line is, and I want to center it around the 4 edges like that. So I'll grab my glue again here. And it's hard when the paper is so busy, it's kind of hard to tell if it's in the center, but I think that's fairly close. And then this will fold down like this. And you know, this is a case for using a bone folder. I'm so lazy when it comes to using my bone folder. Like, I like it and there are things that it's really, really good for, but sometimes I'm just so lazy and I don't bother to use it. But this is a case where if you want things to lay down, it maybe helps to use the bone folder and get that crisp edge. So now just do like that. So, and it will want to pop up a little bit, but that'll help it so it doesn't pop up quite so much. Now I'm not quite done. So isn't this the greatest for using up the designer paper? It's so awesome because you get to see both sides of the paper, and yeah, and it uses a great measurement of the paper too. Last thing I'm going to finish with is an embellishment. And some people, you know, often, not just some people, me and lots of people do, you know, sprinkle 3 or 5, you know, the odd number of embellishments around. What I've discovered with this flower, one of the things I like to do is to put a little embellishment right in the center, sort of to, I don't know, to create a point for your eye to rest on. And so I've pulled out, these are just really, really pretty pearls. They're called the Blooming Pearls, and they are featured with this paper, the Garden Walk designer paper in the mini catalog. And I'm trying to remember, okay, if I look at the paperback pack, it should remind me of what colors are in here. So, you know, this doesn't look like Calypso Coral to me, but that's one of the colors it says on the back of the paper pack. These ones are Pretty Peacock. These ones are green, and so maybe garden green and, well, gold. So yeah, and I'm going to use the green because there's green happening in the, and I think the last time I did this, I used one, you can see I have one that's missing. I used the tiny one. I'm just going to see what it might look like. Oh, excuse me. Got a cough here. Tickle. If this one might look too big. Yeah, I think it is too big. I think I like the smaller one better. But they're very pearly and shiny. Oh, okay. Got to see if I can find my mints here. Got a tickle. Hang on. There we go. Those were my Newfoundland mints. So that's basically my card. And like I said, I'd be really interested to see what you create with this idea. Do you remember that I had a little bit of the, 3/4 of an inch of the DSP left over? Well, I'll show you what you can do. In a pinch, you can take and glue it down along the edge, and then you're not sending a naked envelope. Now I'm just realizing, is it long enough to stretch all the way to the back? Well, not quite. It would leave a little bit hanging on the edge there. That wouldn't have, so yeah, I'd probably just go like that. Or it is wide enough that if you wanted it to go across the bottom or across the top, it's long enough to do that too. Or it could go across the flap at the top. There's a few different things that you could do with it. So I hope you like the idea. I hope you're excited to try it, because when I saw it was with some swaps that I saw at the Las Vegas convention, where I first learned of this idea, and my demonstrator friends were oohing and ahhing and saying, it's 6x6 paper, it's 6x6 paper. And then I started looking at it and I'm like, oh yeah. So pretty much, 6 inches left to right and 5 1/4 top to bottom. I'm already, my mind is, just rushing now and thinking, okay, what else can I do with this recipe? And I do need to do my next month of Christmas cards. Many of you know I'm working on like the hashtag 12 months of Christmas cards to try and stay on top of my Christmas card production. So I'm thinking for next week, I might like to try doing some Christmas cards with this idea. And I'll show you, I've pulled out a couple papers that I thought might work for this. I'm not sure how if they're, how exactly they'll work, but I was looking for ones that have, interesting patterns on both sides, and maybe patterns that aren't too big, but small enough, to fit and on a 6x6, but okay at the same time if it gets covered up a little bit too. So this paper is called, let's see, what is it called? I think it's Joy of Christmas. Yes, it's Joy of Christmas. And it's got some, it's a traditional style of paper, berries and boughs on one side and musical notes on the other. So, and I love, musical theme. Well, not just for Christmas, for any time of year, but I'm thinking there's a nice contrast, or maybe I could have the notes more on the inside. So I'm thinking about this one, Joy of Christmas. So this paper with the scene is called Oh Holy Night. And it's, got like one of those Bethlehem scenes down at the bottom. And I was just a bit worried that if I used the bottom of this and then here part of it would get covered up by the little mini card, I wasn't sure if the whole Bethlehem scene would really translate very well. But I was thinking I could use a top quarter of this. And then I could use the bottom strip. It could go onto a scrapbook page or onto a slimline card. But then when you fold it over, there's this coppery color and kind of some little stars and diamonds there. So I was kind of interested in that paper. This one's called Christmas Meadow, and not your traditional Christmas colors at all. But very, very pretty and soft. And so this one, if it was folded over, yeah, it's just like a watercolor wash. And I thought that would be pretty too. And then for something completely different, there's, oh my gosh, all of a sudden, like, my eyes started going crazy with the stripes on here. It was, I don't know if it's doing it to you. I was getting a do thing. My eyes didn't know how to focus on it. This is called Bold, Merry, and Bright, if I've remembered correctly. Let's see. How come I can't see it on my list here? Oh, no, it's not Bold, Merry, and Bright. It's Merry, Bold, and Bright. And like, wow, this is like your pop of, ooh, okay, except I might want my Christmas trees going up and down like that. So that would be kind of fun. And then the last paper that I was looking at was the Berry Christmas. And again, I'm like, oh, how much of the bears, this would be 6x6 piece, a quarter of the sheet, how much of the bear would get covered up, and would you still see enough of the bears to make it kind of fun? And then, wow, yeah, there's that Nordic print here. So I would love to get your feedback on which of these papers you think you might be interested in me making a Christmas card next time. So there's Berry Christmas, or just the bears. There's the Joy of Christmas, or you could just say joy. Or there's Oh Holy Night. And if you put holy or night, or both, I'll know you mean that. And there's the Christmas Meadow, or if you just put meadow in the comments, I'll know you mean that. And then there's this one, okay, it's not bold first, it's Merry Merry, bold, and bright. How about you just put the word bright, and I'll know that you mean this one. I'm curious to kind of see which of these papers you might like me to try this this recipe with for next time I do my live. So it's probably next Tuesday night. So I'm going to just take a look and see what's coming through here. I'm going back all the way to the beginning here. Tracy, you said that DSP is my very favorite, and because that was from a few minutes, several minutes ago, I'm guessing that you meant the Walk in the Garden paper. Not sure if that's the one that you were referring to, but it's the catalog doesn't do it justice. I was really surprised with how nice that piece of, or that pattern is. And you're welcome, Brenda. My goal is to get you using your papers, because I know there are people who have too much paper and they need ways of using it up. And here it's like uses a full quarter sheet. And B, there are people who are scared to use their pretty papers because they don't want to cut them. And so yeah, if I can get you using some of your paper this week, in the next week or two, I have accomplished my goal. And let's see here. Susan says she'd be interested in me trying the Meadow. And Inez is the Bright. Okay. And the Stripe as well. Okay, the Bright and the Stripe. Yeah. Yeah. So interesting, because these two are not really the traditional Christmas papers. Like this paper is quite funky and bright. I love it, actually. And I love the Meadow too, but again, it's just the colors are a little bit different. So I might have to play around with these, and then next week I'll bring you a Christmas card and we'll see what I have come up with that. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you have any questions, give me a shout. You can always ask it in the comments, because maybe the question you have is also the same one that someone else is wondering. But if you need, more detailed information on something, you can always private message me too. I hope you have a good rest of your week. And thanks again for joining me tonight. Pull out your papers, start using them, show me if you come up with something, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.